Hello, my name is Gina, and I'm the sort of person who thinks that a mattress propped up against a wall is sufficient for a lifestyle background. Today, we are going to be opening a new series that I'm going to call Let's Experiment. I was filming something at some point, it may not have even gone up yet, but I was saying to the camera, saying to you guys that I didn't always feel comfortable calling a video with a look a tutorial, because a lot of the time when I sit down to do my makeup, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I didn't really want to call it a tutorial because I'm not sufficiently experienced to teach anybody how to do what I'm doing. But I do think it's important to experiment with your makeup and try new things, especially if makeup is a creative outlet for you. So we're gonna pivot a little bit and we're gonna start a new series called Let's Experiment. This video was inspired a little bit by this kind of vision I had in my head. I have this pigment here from Sigil Inspired by Tammy Tenuga. This is Lust. It's either Lust or Passion, depending on how you translate it. And this shifts from a very true metallic red to like a lime green, and then even into kind of like a warm forest green. It's really pretty. And then Castle goes from a cool tealish green through teal all the way into like a deep, deep indigo. So what I was thinking is, if I put these two together, can I have like a shifty rainbow multichrome on my eye? I don't know if it's gonna work out the way that I'm thinking it will, but I want to try it anyway. So that's what we're gonna do. We're actually gonna do like a double cut crease where the rainbow's gonna go this way and then it's gonna go this way, and it's gonna be a lot of fun, I hope. But the first thing we need to do is do some just basic testing, because I don't know, first of all, I don't know how these two formulas will play together, because this one, obviously it's loose and it's also a bit more glittery, and this one is obviously pressed and it's much smoother. But I also just don't know what happens when you put two multichromes together, when you try to blend them together. So we're gonna take a look at that too, and that's gonna give us a better idea of how to approach our lid work. For funsies, we're also just gonna mix some multichromes. I have 3 multichrome pigments from Dawn Eyes Cosmetics. Here's the third one. And I don't really love them, so I don't really feel bad about like wasting product just to see what happens. And I figure it might be fun to kind of see what's up. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. Experimenting with multichromes. Can we blend them? Can we mix them? What happens? Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you are a little askew. If you've ever worked with a tripod, I'm sure you know how much of a pain in the butt it is to kind of change them and set them back up the way that you had them. And I finally got my tripod the way that I wanted it, so I didn't want to move it. But I did want to do some top-down stuff, so here we are. This is my hand. It has been primed with Too Faced glitter glue. I do not find that glitter glue is necessary for working with the Clionadh shadows, and it really doesn't help any of the other ones. However, I kind of want to get rid of it, so that's what we're working with today. Kind of in shadow, some are Clionadh's Castle. We also have the 3 Dawn Eyes Cosmetics multichromes that I have, and then also Sigil Inspired Lust. So the first thing I want to do is see how these two will blend together, just kind of being set down on a surface. So there we go. Now you can see that shift. It's pretty great. And to start off with, I'm going to take my flat fluffy brush. This is a Morphe M433. I also use, and I'm gonna just actually take from the lid of the Sigil one And I'm just gonna tap that on here. Now from my point of view, it's shifting green. Like I can see that green shift very well. I'm gonna wipe off my brush. Then I'm gonna take Castle, load that up on the brush. And like we've talked about with Multichromes, I'm not going to blend it or buff it, I'm gonna pat it. And here I actually see its indigo shift very well. So it looks like the Clionadh Multichrome just kind of laid on top of it. So what I might do is grab a smaller brush, something like this. This is the Zoeva 231. I'm gonna go back into the Sigil one, but just less, and pat that on top. Oh, I flex my wrist, or I close my fingers, and it immediately goes from orange to blue, and in the middle here is kind of a silvery white shade, which is interesting. So I'm just gonna tap a little bit more. The Sigil formula is a bit fussier than the Clionadh ones, and the more I tap it, the more disturbed it will get, so I don't want to do too much. But I think that's going to be a good place to start for our blend. I think what this is telling me is that I will need to do several layers to get something approximating a smooth blend. So with that out of the way, I'm going to open up these Dawn Eyes ones and see what happens when we mix them up. Okay, so this one up top shifts from like more of a magenta into green, and this one shifts through red and orange to green, and that's why it's a little confusing. And then the green that this one shifts into is more of a lime. So Ravishing here has, wait, am I where? Okay, sorry, let me bring the party into frame. Ravishing up top here has the same shift as Sigil's Lust. Then Heavenly shifts through magenta, and Mystical is purple that shifts into a teal. So, in my experience, mixing these with medium kind of brings out the black base, so I don't want to do that. Ooh, oh my gosh, okay. So here I've got my mixing palette, and I'm actually going to take a little bit of Mystical and a little bit of Ravishing. I'm gonna put them together in here. And to mix them, I'm just gonna kind of poke at the powder a bit. Again, like not something that you want to disturb too much. So on my hand with the glitter glue still pretty sticky, I'm gonna give you Mystical, then Ravishing, and then the two of them mixed together. Huh. I think they probably didn't mix super well. Let me see. I'm gonna move this out of the way. Gonna spill it everywhere. Yeah, that's it. There's a kind of appeal to it in that like it's kind of got this like olive-y thing, and it shifts kind of into purple, but it's mostly a gray mess. Like I really have to bend my hand around to see any kind of shift. So that didn't work out super well. Let me clean up real fast, and then we'll mix two other ones. So let me give you a swatch of Heavenly so that we have our base ones to compare to. So now I'm going to mix Ravishing and Heavenly, and maybe because they're more similar, they won't turn out as bad. So we've got them mixed here, and let's see. Instead of using my palette knife, I'm gonna grab a little liner brush and see if that helps. If we can get it more mixed, but less disturbed. All right, so with that mixed, put that up here. Actually, I'm going to take it out of frame so that my camera will adjust. Okay, so now with my mix of the two ready ones, so I think that did better than the first mix. So these are our originals, and these are our mixes. It's definitely still pretty cloudy. It definitely didn't like become magically more vibrant or anything, but I do think, I don't know, to be honest. Like, well, I will say it's definitely more pink. It's definitely more like it looks like a mix of the two, right? It looks like a vibrant fuchsia, at least to me in the mirror here, and it didn't completely like gray out like this one did. So that's got something going for it, and it's definitely warmer than the other one. I'm gonna spray it and just drop that right on top. I think it made it smoother and a bit more opaque, but outside of that, like it didn't like gain a lot of shine or anything. So I don't know, I would say like that's a good mix. I would say that's probably as good, if not maybe a little better than the originals that we have over here. Okay, so that was Heavenly and Ravishing. So now let's mix these two here. It's very difficult for me to keep Heavenly and Ravishing distinct. All right, so let's pull in some Mystical. I anticipate that this will gray out quite a bit because there's so much like yellowy orange in this. I'm gonna use my liner brush to mix again. With these two mixed and I put down a little bit more glitter glue here, it'll be a little bit fresher, so it might be a little bit more vibrant. Yeah. I'm not super surprised by this. Then I'm gonna spray with some mixing medium. Oh yeah. Well, that's interesting. The green shift, so they both shift to green, so the shift of it is actually very pretty. It's difficult to capture, and with these two mixed together and like looking at it flat on the light, it's kind of got this, it's like an olive green, and it's got like it looks like it has like a multicolored glitter in it, which is interesting. And then this one here, our mix, it's become a little bit more vibrant over time. And honestly, I would say it's probably on par with the Sigil one now in terms of vibrancy. So like if you've got two of these Dawn Eyes ones that are similar in like color family, you might want to try and mix them to see if you can get a bit more shine out of it. It's not on the same level as Clionadh's, but it's definitely better. And then I feel like we need to mix some of our kind of golden child pigments with these other ones. So I think I'm gonna take Clionadh's Castle with Dawn Eyes Mystical, Jesus, and Lust with whatever the fuck this one is. I'm gonna hop off camera for a bit, and I'll come back with a clean hand that's reprimed. Okay, I am back. I also added a light behind me, so I'm kind of hoping that will help with some of the like the shadows that we were getting before, but we'll see. It might also compromise the shift. We'll see. So let me move this Reese's wrapper. So we're gonna mix, like we said, we're gonna mix the Clionadh shadow with the Dawn Eyes, and we're gonna mix Sigil's Lust with Dawn Eyes as well. And actually, I feel like mixing the two powders will probably be a little bit better, a little bit easier, more similar to what we were doing before. So we're gonna do that. Heavenly is the red one, so I will take... Apologies for all of the shifting. This is all very new. Okay, and then I'm going to take whatever the fuck this one is. Heavenly. I don't want to put too much in there. So let's see how this works out. Let me move this off screen, or at least in a different part of the screen. Pull my mix and just dot that right here. That looks pretty good. Yeah, you're not getting as much of the shift because of the light in the background. But let me do another swatch of the two on their own. So this is Dawn Eyes, and this is Sigil on its own. Let me get some more of my mix here. Yeah, so I think that, I don't know if you can tell, I don't think it was helped at all. And I pulled the wrong one to swatch for comparison, but if you can see, if you can tell, the one in the middle that's the mix is just duller than the other one, so I don't think that helped any. All right, now for this deal. I'm going to try and mix these on the skin, but again, like, it's going to be kind of difficult because this one's pressed. And actually, I might not mix them on the skin. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my palette knife and I'm going to very, very gently scrape at the pressed shadow. And this will also tell us a lot about the shadow itself. I got some off. It kind of came off in chunks, which makes sense to me because it's such a emollient formula. It's very creamy. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very creamy. And this, I'd be really interested to see how this mixes with a liner or with a medium. But for now, I'm gonna take our much more powdery one. I'm especially interested to see how these mix because they more or less have the same flat light color, but their reflex are different. So I'm really interested to see how that works. To mix these, I'm still using that liner brush, but I'm kind of smushing it a bit to get the Clionadh one to come up. All right, and now I'm gonna pull this off screen. I'm going to take my denser brush, pick up my mix, and let's see what happens. Okay, so I mean, I can tell you straight off that it's definitely cloudier than the Clionadh one, which is very like brilliant and shiny and wonderful. Look, I can be a fangirl of an eyeshadow if I want to. And then probably more vibrant than the Dawn Eyes one. Yeah, so I don't know, sorry, come here. So this is interesting. I don't know how much the shift is picking up on camera, but it does give like an entirely different shift. So on the flat light, which I realize you don't have access to, I would say that the middle mix here is a bit brighter than Clionadh's, which I am fascinated by. But when you rotate it back and look at it flat, it's definitely more dull. But I would say that the shift is kind of, I don't know. I don't know that I would say it's a mix of the two. Maybe it is. Look at that. This is fascinating. And I wonder if if Clionadh has a shade that is the same as Mystical, maybe they get a shade like the middle one here by mixing these two. I don't know, but I'm very fascinated by this. Like I could sit here and stare at this all day, but I can't because we have work to do. All right, so let's start with our look for this and see what our mixing multi-chrome look ends up like. Okay, I'm back and now we are ready for the look portion of this video. I have my brows done already just because that's my routine, and I actually haven't primed my eyes yet because I'm not 100% sure how I want to do it. So my kind of vision, my idea for this look is to take the sigil pigment, which is the red to green, and put it on this side of the eye, and then go in with the Clionadh shadow, which goes from like a cool green all the way into indigo to the side, so it'll be a rainbow, and then do a cut crease, have a bit of negative space, and then on top of that, essentially do the same thing, but to take the red on the side into the blue, so that when you move the light over it, it will shift like kind of opposite and kind of be maybe a little rainbowy. So I've been thinking a lot. I think what I will do is I will put this, the Too Faced glitter glue down on the top part of my eye first, do the top wing-ish thing, then go ahead and carve out the bottom of it so you have a clean line, and then put down another, and then put it down here, and then place it that way. So with all that said, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Taking that glitter glue on my pinky finger, and this is actually, I'm thinking, gonna be pretty good for this kind of work. I don't need that mirror. I have said in other videos, I think, that I don't actually really like this glitter glue because it's just not sticky enough for glitter, to be completely honest. At least the glitter that I like to use. And it's just not, it just doesn't do it for me. But for something like this, where I just want like an extra sticky base, I think it will actually work very well. So I do want this upper wing to be a little thick, so I don't want to use like a liner brush. I'm going to take these two. This is a Morphe 213 and a Zoeva 237. I'll probably work back and forth with them, and I'll use them to kind of pat that shape in. We are going to cut underneath to make sure we have that clean line, but to kind of save us some work on that end, I want to try and keep it as tight as possible. So going into Sigil's Lust, I'm gonna tap off the excess, and I am gonna have to grab my white mirror, but I'm just gonna bring it through here. I am bringing this right where my crease is. I'm following my crease pretty closely, and I'm not super fussed about fallout right now. I'm just trying to get this line down with as little like fuss as humanly possible. I'm about 2, maybe 3/5 of the way across my eye, and I'm gonna go in now with Castle. Just putting that right on top here. Pat, 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 pat. And now I'm gonna look in my big mirror to get me the rest of the way, and I am gonna wing it out. Something that I am finding is that with the Sigil pigment, it's actually a lot easier to kind of pat it on the way that I was doing, because it's, I mean, essentially it's crumblier. And with the Clionadh shadow, it's not that it's harder, but you kind of have to resist that desire to pull it, which doesn't have anything to do with the shadow. It just kind of my habit in working with stuff like this, or working with like a smoother texture. That's better. This is the smaller of the two. This is the Morphe brush. So now I'm just gonna kind of attend to the blend here. So like we did on my hand, I'm taking some of the Sigil, placing it here, and then I'm grabbing from the lid of, some of the Clionadh, and I placed it down, and then some of the Sigil and tapping it on top. And what we might end up with is less of a blend and more of kind of what I've talked about in the past with really textured shadows, more of a fade. So like when you blend, you get kind of a middle color in between, but when you fade one over the other, they never really make a distinct color, one just kind of tapers out where the other comes in, and you can see them both separately at the same time. As I'm doing this, I'm paying as much close attention as I can to the top of this line because I want to be sure that it's as smooth as I can get it. Because while we can clean it up on top, if we don't have to, that's ideal. Like if we only have to clean up one side, that would be ideal. To facilitate that, I'm gonna grab a liner brush. This is my go-to. This is a Dugato liner brush. It is actually technically a paintbrush. And going into the Sigil one, hopefully I should be able to kind of drag this across like a liner. That gets us a smooth-ish line. And then I'll take the Sigil one as well and go up here. I'm gonna stop there and I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the lower part of this. To do that, I'm gonna grab this. This is the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer. This is it's not actually a silicone primer. I believe it doesn't have silicone in it, but I don't have the ingredients on the back here. But it's a pore smoothing primer. It has that feel to it, but it's much more liquidy. And this is great, I have found, for doing, like removing eyeshadow of any kind, but in particular, if you're doing detail work like this, it's really great at removing makeup in like a clean line, and then you can still, like after you've cleaned it up, you can still put eyeshadow down on top of it and there's not a big difference. With other ones that I have used, I have found that, like, especially like if you clean up with like makeup remover, I find that afterwards, it's much harder to put down makeup. It's definitely graying out where I put down that photo finish primer. So I think going about it this way was probably the right move. I'm actually going to zoom you in while I do this because I think it's good and important to see. I'm taking the primer on a brush. I started with a liner brush. Now I'm kind of experimenting with either of these to see which one works. And what I do is I just kind of dip in here and then I just lay it down and I'll let it sit there for a minute because it kind of eats at the shadow. And I'm just using it to clean up the bottom of this line here. I'm sure you can see right where we've been kind of fussing with it with this primer. It's definitely graying out for both of the Multichromes. So my advice would be, if you want to try something like this, to start a bit lower than you intend to cut it and kind of work upwards, and hopefully we will find when I'm done that the gray doesn't compromise what's left. I'm gonna take this flat brush here, and so the rest of the challenge with this is to get the rest of the primer up off of your eye. Its slippery nature means it kind of rolls. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but if you can see, I still have some left. So I'm going in with this flat brush and I'm kind of rubbing it against the grain of my skin to get the rest of it up. So I'm mostly okay with that. I do have some graying out under here, but I do think we will go in with a concealer or some kind of skin toned base to help. So I'm not gonna worry about it too much. But I'm going to take this same brush and go back into the Sigil pigment, and just on the tip, I'm just grabbing it on the tip here, tap off the excess, and kind of see if I can resolve some of the unevenness in thickness. I've got my hand braced on my mirror and my elbows are on my desk. I'm trying to get as much stability as I can, so the only thing that's moving is my fingers. And we're just gonna stamp it. There we go. I think that's a little better. I still do have this bump up here. I'm trying not to freak out about it too much, because the last time I had a bump and I tried to fix it, I was there for 3 hours and we did a makeup fuck up. I'm gonna try and spray this. I'm spraying it with a mixing medium. Let me zoom you back out so you can see where we are. I really very strongly caution against using a mixing medium with these pigments, because very similarly to how when you rub them it disturbs the black base, when they get kind of suspended in a solution, that will also separate them from the black base, and that's not what we want. Alright, so this is this eye. It's not perfect, but I'm okay enough with it to go ahead and pause, catch up my other eye, and then we'll come back and do the lower one. Alright, I'm back. I've got my other eye done. It doesn't match, but that's okay. I've been kind of hemming and hawing about how I want to take care of the middle part of this. So the bottom is going to be a wing too. It's going to be a graphic wing. And then the middle, I definitely want to be a skin color, but I don't want it to be bare skin. So I want to lay down a concealer of some kind. But in particular, because that's right through where my eyes crease, I also need to lay down a primer. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna lay down my regular primer, my Smashbox 24-hour eyeshadow primer. And I'm gonna put that down on the entire bottom part of my lid. So I'm gonna carve it through this wing and put it on the bottom part of my lid. Then I'm gonna take concealer with a more precise brush and get like a tight corridor of concealer through here that roughly approximates where the empty space is gonna be. And then I'm gonna take Too Faced glitter glue on top of it with that same precise brush and carve out the shape of my wing, which will then do the shadows on top of. It's a lot. Having hooded eyes is a challenge at times, but I think this is gonna work, so let's do this too. I've actually never done a structured application of this primer before, but it shouldn't be too hard. But let's see what we get. And because it's just a transparent primer, I don't have to be super careful about it. I just have to make sure that it doesn't disturb the eyeshadows. And then once I've got that down, I'm just gonna spread it out with my finger and then come in with my finger like I typically would and just lay that down on the rest of the eye. It does seem like I still have some glitter glue there. I don't think it's gonna be a huge problem, but if the texture looks weird when we're done, that's what that is. I'm gonna go ahead and do my other eye before all of this stuff dries out. So with that down, my eye is primed. I'm gonna go in with the ColourPop No Filter Concealer. And if you haven't seen me do this before, I typically will take the concealer and put some of it in between my first and second knuckle, and this gives me kind of a palette to pull from. With the same detail primer brush that I used to put the primer down, I'm going to go ahead and carve out the bottom of that wing again. I do not recommend breathing. And then I'm just taking the same brush and patting this down. Now, I am overlapping the area where that second wing will be, and that's okay with me. I just didn't want all of it that way because I didn't want to disturb the concealer when we go down with glitter glue. You may not need to take that precaution. I just chose to. Right, so now I'm just going to take my finger and tap in that area. The base underneath is making it a lot easier to, it's sticking very well to the concealer, and that is exactly what we wanted. It is a little patchy and uneven, so I'm just going to take my brush and just tap along through there, and what this is doing is it's just picking up any excess. You can also pick up that small detail brush, and it will do basically the same thing, but a little bit more. And it'll go a little faster. So again, I'm gonna do the other eye, and we'll proceed from there. All right, so this appears to be going just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off my concealer. And then I'm gonna grab a somewhat larger brush that apparently has something on it, and then carve out the second shape. So I'm gonna find the peak of where this is and mark it here with the glitter glue so that I know I'm going down and back up from there, and then just down from here. And I think a challenge of this method, and I'm sure if you've been watching, you've already picked up on it, I'm not going to be able to see where my glitter glue line is because it's clear. I'm not that worried about it. I don't know if you can see, there's actually a bit of a line where the concealer and the glitter glue meet, which might be helpful. We'll see. But either way, I'm not as fussed about it at the moment because the thing that makes the line is the shadow, and we're gonna end up going back over with concealer in that area most likely anyway. I'm gonna immediately put brush cleaner on this because I don't want that glue to dry. So tap that a bit, and we're more or less going to do the exact same thing that we did with the first eye, except I'm going to use this. And the reason why I'm using this, at least for the Clionadh shadow, I found that picks up much better on these like smooth synthetic brushes, which is fascinating to me. So I'm kind of hoping it will help here. So going into Castle with my smooth brush, with my, I don't know what the fuck to call it, with my paintbrush. It's a paintbrush, call it a paintbrush. Yeah, I don't know if that actually picked up enough, but we'll see. And then I'm just gonna start here and pat that on. Yeah, no, I don't like that. I'm going back in with my little brush here. And I might not like that either, just because there's a lot of area to cover, but we'll see. While I'm doing this, because I'm pretty sure it's gonna take me a minute, there's something I wanna talk about. I either have talked about or will talk about this on Instagram, but I think it's worth mentioning here as well. So a lot of the time, well, let me back up. I've been frequenting Angela Mary Tanner's posts about Clionadh Cosmetics and the stained glass collection quite a bit recently. And kind of, it's a little inevitable that someone like in the comments gets like very angry and indignant about how much they cost. And if you didn't know, the Clionadh Multichrome shadows cost about $20 each. This doodad here costs 20 bucks. And if you're not, into makeup, the typical cost of a single shadow is like 5 bucks. So I would say they're probably around 4 times more expensive than other regular eyeshadows. Other multi-chrome eyeshadows also run for about 20 bucks a pop. And people get really upset about this, and people get really upset about the cost of Clionadh shadows, Clionadh's Multichromes. And like some of them get like really nasty about it, and I don't, that's not a thing that I really understand. Like I don't understand why, like, I'll just say what I like wanted to say. A lot of the time people like will ask like, are they worth it? Are they worth the money? And I never really understood that question, because the only person who can make that determination is you. The only person who can say whether or not something is worth 20 bucks is you. And I can tell you, I can say like, this is what I wanted my Multichromes to be when they came out. Like when I got the Dawn Eyes ones, like this is what I wanted to see. And I can tell you that. And I can tell you that I am happy to pay $20 a piece for this, because they're wonderful and they bring me joy. And like if you saw my first impressions, I was so like literally joyful about it. But that's me, right? Those are like my values. Those are like the things that I like want to see in makeup and in multichromes. That's a reflection of me and my values. And so like if you want to sit here and try to get me or anybody else to make this kind of objective claim that something is or isn't worth the money, like you're wasting your time. Because like that's not how pricing works. That's not how value works. And similarly, if you like want to try and say like objectively like they're not worth that much money, or like it's not, you know, they're ripping people off or what have you, that's not how pricing works, right? That's not how companies set the price for their products. That's not how customers make decisions. That's just not how it works. And I don't understand the indignation that people have about it. If you don't like bright ass color shifting eyeshadows, then they're not worth 20 bucks a pop to you, and they're not going to be. If you like them some, but not enough to pay $20 each for them, then they're not worth it for you. That's how that works. It's really easy, I think, to like try and make this comparison of like, oh, well, X brand sells them for this much, or Y brand sells them for this much, and, you know, therefore, like, the more expensive ones are a ripoff or what have you, and then, like, talk about, like, how much it costs to make them or whatever. Like, that's not the point. And that's not, again, that's not how pricing works. I'm taking a liner brush. That sigil pigment picks up like crazy. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh, right. Like like these eyeshadows could be made out of like horse manure and cost 10 cents to make, and it could still be, right, let me back up. People try to talk about like how much multichromes cost to make, and how, like, you know, the micas are like new technology and all of this other stuff, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't really matter. First of all, most makeup, like, I believe the average markup of makeup is something like 99%, and that you are buying something that it cost half as much to make as the price that you're paying for. Like I'm sorry, I'm ranting a bit and struggling a bit, and when I get into like feisty mode, I say things that like I'm not 100% sure I want to like that I want other people to associate with me. So essentially what I'm getting at is value is subjective, and at the end of the day, if an eyeshadow to you If you don't want to pay $20 for a shifting, bright ass eyeshadow, then it's not worth it to you and you shouldn't buy it. But that doesn't say anything about whether or not the pricing is fair or whether or not a company is taking advantage of people or whether it's fair or right. Because fair and right really at the end of the day don't have anything to do with it. It has to do with companies recouping on cost and what the market will support. If you're gonna get angry with someone for the fact that these eyeshadows cost 20 bucks a piece, get angry at people like me who buy them. Because if the market did not support eyeshadows that cost $20 a piece, they would either be cheaper or they wouldn't be there at all. The latter is probably the more likely. And that's just how it works. That's how the world works. It's how markets work. And the beauty market is no different. So like, first of all, chill out. It's okay. Like it sucks. It really does. And I am incredibly empathetic. Like it sucks to not be able to afford the things that you want, particularly if you are in the beauty community and there is this tremendous social aspect to new releases and talking about them. And it is very difficult to feel left out and to not be able to participate in that social aspect. I'm not sitting here trying to call you like a petty bitch or anything. It sucks, and I am legitimately empathetic. I am even more so because I, am not in work right now and I can't afford anymore, right? The one that I have from Clionadh is a gift, and the ones that I have from before were purchased when I was employed. I can't afford them. But that's all about me, right? That's all about me. That's about what I can afford and what I can't. It's about, my values in terms of like, I could ask one of my partners to buy them for me, but it's not worth my pride, of which I have a great deal. And it's just, that's on me. That's me. That's about me. It's not about anybody else. These very much are not even. And honestly, I like this one more, but I just... Let me get a winged liner brush and I'll even it out some. Although I'm kind of sad. I really do prefer that one. They are like uneven in the gap and that bugs me more than I prefer this one. And I know that I can't fix this without screwing everything up. So here we are. Plus, I think this one needs to come higher to cover the fold of my eye. So yeah, that's like my little mini rant for the day, I guess. I just like kind of entering into the beauty content sphere. There's a lot of like the phenomenon of the beauty community that I don't understand. And I don't understand why people get so angry about, like a lot of things, but in particular, like the pricing of product. I don't get it. I don't understand. This fucking eyeshadow goes on so incredibly easily. Like, I don't know if you're like watching this as it happens, but I'm picking up way too much. It's so opaque that I don't need nearly as much as I'm picking up. And it's like fucking, it's like a liquid in a lot of ways. It just slides onto the skin. Like, that's the best way to put it. It slides. And it's so fucking cool. But I do kind of have I get this sometimes when I put on too much. Like, it bunches up. And again, like, I don't want to zhuzh it too much because it'll get all black. So going in with the Sigil one, I think I will take it on that liner brush first. And the Sigil one, like, a bunch picks up. but it's all like crumbly. And so that's more of a process. Don't get me wrong, I've definitely picked up too much of the Sigil one too. Shit. Fuck. Sometimes I have noticed with the Sigil pigment, you can dust it off as long as there's not like an adhesive under it, which I don't know. Give me a second. Okay, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, it's not great, it's not perfect, and now this one's not even either. Fuck everything. But it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna grab something a bit more precise, and just on the tip, I'm gonna try and fill in those bumps a bit. And we'll actually be successful this time. I've been here for a hot minute, and I haven't even started my face makeup yet. Something that I've picked up on over the past month or so is like, there's this phrase that some of the smaller beauty YouTubers like kind of toss around, which is like, what is it? It's like, I don't spend 3 hours on my makeup. It's like, well, I do. And both of those are valid. I'm not like trying to shade anybody. I'm leaving it. We're done. All right, so before I break to do all of my face stuff, I will show you how I clean up this line down here. Fortunately, it doesn't look like we need to really clean up a ton in that wing area, but I can tell you before we even like break to do face stuff that at least on this eye, there will be some transfer because I just didn't cut it high enough, but it's fine. So, I mean, essentially, the way that I clean this up is the same as the way I did the other, is I grab some of that Smashbox primer, and I put it on a brush, and I just draw that line through here. Slowly but surely, in this case. My aunt's name is Shirley. I think that's a good like angle. But yeah, I'll finish cleaning all of this up, do all of my face makeup, and then I will probably just go ahead and finish out the lower lash because we've been here for a while already, and anything that happens to the lower lash line, we will already have talked about like how it works. So if I do something different, I'll be sure to record it. If not, we'll just go ahead and skip to the final look. So I low-key, like, I really like this. This is like, again, this is exactly the kind of stuff that I wanted to be making with my Multichrome eyeshadows, and I am just so excited. I do wish that I had remembered to do on the bottom, like, I remember that I wish that I had remembered the color order that I wanted to go in, because I do think that this one on top is definitely a, like, it looks like a rainbow. I'm super happy with this. I hope that you like it too, and I hope that this video was helpful in terms of kind of setting expectations for mixing multi-chromes together, whether or not you can use them together, and all of that good stuff. If it was, and if you liked it, please do give me a thumbs up. It really does help me out. And leave me a comment down below if you have like pictures of like your multi-chrome work. Give me links, give me pictures. I want to see them. I love multi-chrome shit. So good. If you like me and my flowing red hair, please do also subscribe to the channel. I upload on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the foreseeable future. You can find me on the internet at Faces by Gina. I have an Instagram and a Facebook where I upload looks every single day. I hope that you're having a great day no matter where you are. Please remember to think critically, deeply engage the world around you, and be good to yourself and good to other people as well. I'll see you out there on the internet. Bye.